is gripped by the mysterious disappearance of 3 police constables, 2 women and 1 man who vanished while travelling from Bloemfontein to Limpopo. Their last known location was near the Gasmeer toll plaza, and with their phones and vehicle tracker offline, authorities suspect possible hijacking or kidnapping. The SAPS has launched a high-priority investigation, mobilising detectives and crime intelligence units. This case raises urgent questions about the safety of law enforcement officers, criminal syndicates, boldness and the effectiveness of police response systems. Now, to analyse these issues, we're joined by criminal law expert Ian Allis. Ian, appreciate your time this afternoon. Happy Freedom Day. Crime obviously been a factor in the last 31 years. More so now that we talk about these 3 police constables who've been missing about a week. The first 48 hours, from what we understand, are critical. Explain to us, from your understanding, where we are with this investigation.
Good afternoon and happy Freedom Day to the viewers as well. From what I understand, from what I believe, there has been certain media briefings and family briefings from the seniors in the police, but as of today, how can one say talk is cheap? They've commissioned investigating units, but still nothing's been found to give any indication that they're any closer to solving this mystery. And unfortunately, one taking into account the low success rates, especially in regards with kidnapping or other type of issues of this, especially of this type of nature, especially with all of their phones and the tracking unit going offline, the prognosis will probably be pretty bleak.
So how concerned should South Africans be if police men and women are kidnapped or hijacked at a whim?
This is an ongoing issue, unfortunately, and it's not the first. It's just becoming more brazen. Numerous police stations have already been robbed over the past few years, and the numbers have been increasing rapidly. Our police force is under-resourced, and I've stated this before on the shows, that they are also underwhelmingly badly trained. So the reality is the police force, in comparison to the advancements with our criminal syndicates and the availability of technology for them to ping vehicles and the nature and to ping phones and that type of thing, is becoming an increased problem because they've actually out-resourced the police.
Now, Ian, when you profile these 3 individuals, right, do you come across any information or any intelligence that would suggest why these particular 3 individuals have been accosted?
There has been a great deal of information about them in particular, and there hasn't been anything released that indicates that they've been involved in any syndicates themselves. However, the biggest problem is that they weren't traveling anonymously. So the reality is that they were seen. The vehicle was marked. At this stage, at this country, these type of uniforms for certain criminal syndicates are quite well in demand. So in reality, it is opportunistic, but they also cannot be discounted out that they may have already been targeted when they left by other people who have already got contact within the police force, and they utilize certain of these contacts as well to follow other fellow policemen. The fact is, they got the vehicle, they got their guns, they got their cell phones, they got their badges. That's quite a lucrative find for a lot of cartels, because now they've in essence got an open door key to the proverbial treasure chest for supposed roadblocks, for robberies, for hijackings, for a great deal of other opportunistic crimes.
Ian, I touched on the first 48 hours a little bit earlier when we started this conversation. How critical is that period in establishing the safety or whereabouts of these individuals? And now that it's a week in since the alleged abduction, what is the likelihood of the return, the safe return of these three constables?
The likelihood now, I can tell you, is very slim, and it's not promising because it's been so long. Is the first 24 to 48 hours are imperative because that kind of traces the pattern. It gives one an indication and kind of shows that there's more of a head start than an end game. So the reality is, at this present moment, with this duration of time, the likelihood that you're going to find anything is very, very slow, because within the first 24 hours, that's where the clues are. That's where one can pick up from cell phone towers. That's where one can determine from any tracking devices on the car where it exactly was by the Grasmere turnoff, and then one can start picking up a route of where they may have in actual fact gone. What intelligence will also go, what from the intelligence department may also take one into certain areas and knowing who might be a prime suspect. At this present moment, it's like tracing through through the savannah hunting. At this present moment, if the clues have been washed away, there's very little left of the digital footprint. So unfortunately now, the car's been taken, the tracking device has been taken out. There's very little likelihood that they're going to be able to recover, even from the phones. If those phones were in actual fact used for any purposes, they've been shut off, destroyed, and the SIM cards have been broken. So realistically, the likelihood now that they're going to find them after such an extensive period is very slim for those reasons. The actual evidence has gone cold.
Now, the National Police Commissioner is going to address the public. There is a presser in a few minutes. What can we anticipate from this briefing?
Unfortunately, a whole lot of further promises and indications that no, the police are on top of it, they will find them. There's going to be a lot of false and empty promises of hope, and that they're going to need the community to be involved to give clues. Unfortunately, it's all going to be a whole lot of nothing. Unless they've got some sort of indication, which after this period of time, if they're now only giving a briefing and we're well out of the 48 hours, I don't see that going ahead and leading to anything, unless it's going to be a less than positive, a negative outcome. That is in all likelihood what the only probable outcome is going to be right now.
A couple of other issues that I want to rewind to that you touched on, Ian, during the course of the conversation. One is the brazen nature of criminals in this country, criminal syndicates, and how criminals will attack and accost three police officers.
Well, let me put it to you this way: it's become public knowledge that they've been robbing police stations of the arms. So if you can walk in to a station full of cops and rob them, what chance has three constables who are then basically very new into the job? We're talking about under 5 years, gonna stand against guys who are better trained, better armed, and pretty much have got a game plan. These guys have got no. When you've got the police, we have no game plan. This is the problem. They haven't had a game plan on how to really deal with organized crime for years now. So in reality, whether it's the most advanced of syndicates or opportunistic of criminals, they're still in likelihood better trained and better armed than the police force are.
So let's talk about that training or the absence of training. You talk about these constables that have been in the field for under 5 years. What knowledge do they have versus what they should have in order to be able to protect themselves?
Well, if one actually has any bearing of what's also circulated in social media, the vetting processes are not great. We've lost a lot of senior detectives who have not only just the skills and the training, but the experience as well. A lot of the time when it comes to knowing how to deal in certain situations comes down to the aspect of experience within that field and the training. If the guys are not being trained properly, there's the police force is under resourced and underutilized. So they basically, you've got a very and I'm not meaning it from an academic point of view. You're dealing it from a very practical and the skills perspective. Very uneducated police force in coming through the ranks. They're inexperienced. They don't have those skills and the necessary training in order to set themselves apart and to be able to deal with situations that may arise. They're more likely to panic, and that makes them more vulnerable than anybody else.
Ian Allis, great to speak to you. Appreciate those insights, criminal law expert, speaking to us around the 3 police officers who vanished, went missing, allegedly accosted at the Grasmere toll plaza is the last place they were seen, and it's been a week to the day. In a few minutes, we'll hear from the National Police Commissioner speaking and addressing the media on where those investigations are at the moment.